Read it.
That.
Lionel Sanders' net worth.
Oh, yeah, baby.
51.
I'm suing whoever wrote that.
Suing?
Yeah.
I'm about to sue you. I want a raise right now.
I need to get my piece of that.
Read what it says.
According to Wikipedia, Forbes, IMDb, and various online resources, famous triathlete Lionel Sanders' net worth is $52 million at the age of 31 years old. He earned the money being a professional triathlete. He is from Canada. Dang, dude.
51 million.
Daniel?
Done.
51.
My favorite one is that goes with that is it's a picture of Abraham Lincoln and it's a quote and it says, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet." Quote Abraham Lincoln.
That's so true right there. Abraham Lincoln. Oh, man. 51 million. Wow. 52.
PTO blowing it up.
All right. Most interesting man in the world who everyone's wanted to hear from. What is your name and what do you do?
David Tilbury Davis, coach.
Who do you coach?
Ooh, a few folks, but I guess everybody wants to hear about Lionel Sanders, that guy from Canada.
How did you and Lionel how did you guys meet originally?
Ooh, first time we met was Ironman Texas, the year he had a meltdown, and I met him after the race because I was coaching Matt Hansen at the time, and had a brief chat with him then, sort of introduced myself, said hello, and then wasn't really until Kona 2016 that I reached out to Lionel and I said, I think I can help you. And things went from there.
Wow, so did you coach him pretty much in all of 2016?
Lionel?
Yeah.
No. So
I mean, sorry, 2017.
Yeah, so 2017 was it's like after Kona. We had a chat and I started giving him some suggestions as to what to do leading into Arizona, and then all of 2017 it was very much a partnership around, I would make suggestions as to what he should do and also talk about the sort of 10,000 foot view and the framework of training, and then he would sort of color in the detail.
So in 2017 you played a role into Lionel's greatest performance, would you say that, in Kona?
I think I would say I was contributed to it. My job was to just try to make sure Lionel didn't make any stupid decisions throughout that year.
Talk to me a little bit about, was it hard for you to watch Lionel after you guys kind of parted ways?
So 2018.
2018 and 2019.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talk to me a little bit about yours and Lionel's relationships during 2018 and 2019.
And we still kept in touch occasionally. There wasn't any sort of bad feelings between us after 2017. But certainly from my point of view, I always wanted, what was best for him, irrespective of whether or not I was coaching him or not. So knowing him as well as I did and knowing what he was capable of, it was hard to kind of see it go the way that it did in 2018 and 2019.
When did Lionel eventually reach out to you in 2019? Was it after the race?
So it was after Kona, yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that and kind of how you were feeling and stuff.
Lionel just dropped me an email and said, hey, I kind of need somebody in my corner to help me figure it out and make some better decisions. And, we worked well together in the past. Is that something, you're okay with? And let me know. And I was perfectly happy to help and be involved. And so we went from there.
Was it something that you were concerned about that Lionel necessarily wouldn't listen to you?
No, because we're both human. We both have our moments. 2017, I think after the race, I think both of us, things kind of maybe broke down from a communication perspective a little bit, and I probably got a little bit above my station, and Lionel rightly said, well, that's not cool, and I was a bit put out by that, and he did his thing, I did my thing, but we were always on good terms. There was never any bad feelings. And so 2019, we just had a really candid conversation around, okay, right, what are your expectations of what I do, and these are my expectations of what I expect you to do. And yeah, sure, there's going to be times when I make suggestions and Lionel says, well, I kind of disagree with that, and then we might have a bit of a debate. I might spit my dummy out, he might spit his dummy out, but at the end of the day, we're big enough and ugly enough to kind of discuss things through like adults and not get dogmatic in our views.
So when you guys started working together again, how much did you really just take over Lionel's training? Would that be beneficial for you to just basically be like, Lionel, look, we're starting clean, I'm writing all of your training, you listen to me now?
No, because
kind of play out.
No, because that's not what Lionel necessarily wants or needs.
Can you walk us through kind of that process, like how your writing the training goes and kind of all the things like that?
Yeah, so in terms of how things work, I'll make a suggestion in terms of the framework of training. So, I think metaphorically, the way to think about it is if I design the coloring in book, I design the picture, and then I kind of give it to Lionel, and Lionel colors it in. So I'll give him a framework of, okay, well, if this is what we're trying to work towards in the down the line in 3 months or 6 months, these are the building blocks that we need to go through, and this is how I think you do that sequentially. And then in terms of the sort of underlying detail, some of the aspects I'll make suggestions on, and then he'll build that into his week. Other aspects, it's more a case of I say, okay, well, just try to focus on that type of training, and then he designs the session based on how well he knows his body. And that's the reality of it is, I see data, I see video, I see movement patterns, but Lionel feels the training. He feels how he feels how hard sessions are. So there's a level of communication around what does that actually mean? How does it all fit together? How does it build step by step?
I think the most asked question that a lot of people want to know, do you plan to change Lionel's run form?
I think there's an important thing to understand there, that you can't cue anatomical dysfunction. So what I mean by that is you can't make somebody do a movement pattern that they're physically incapable of doing. Now, Lionel's always ran like that. Lionel's ran like that since he was 9 years old, and he's been running. So, is it something that needs to be fixed? Well, I think the question you need to ask is actually, is Lionel's running actually genuinely biomechanically inefficient? And given I've got a background in gait analysis, I'd say no. It's not. There's definitely asymmetries, but there's been world-class athletes with asymmetries. Haile Gebrselassie, 10K, Olympic world record holder, always used to carry one arm higher than the other. And it's because as a kid, he always used to run to school holding school books in one arm. So I think there's context to be had. There's nothing to be done with Lionel's run form. Should we be working on Lionel's ability to hold the best form that he's capable of holding for as long a period of time? Absolutely.
As far as what is one thing that you really wanted to do with Lionel, did you want to just basically start from scratch as you picked him up again as a client, or what was your first thing that you wanted to do, and did you want to change everything, or just kind of fix where you thought that he needed help in? No,
it's never a case of like, okay, throw everything out and do what I say. Because I don't have all the answers. Lionel's not the same athlete now that he was when I started working with him in 2017. So there's context. So it was very much a case of saying, what is working well, what could be working better, and what is the reality of what we're trying to work towards. So, if Lionel said, okay, I need you to figure out how I'm going to run a 2:38 in Kona, that might require a very different approach to the run training, but that might not necessarily be the right way to approach things.
So, will you walk us through a little bit about on when you and Lionel started to discuss coming out to Kona? Kind of what is your goal here, and when did you guys kind of start the discussions and stuff?
I mean, pretty much started talking about Kona almost straight away. It was a discussion we had in 2017. So it was always on the cards. It was more a case of then, okay, well, when do we do it? And really, what do we want out of it? And it was always a case of come out here and do as much testing as possible and get as much quantitative information as possible so that we can then ask better questions. And it might be we come away from, what we've been doing this week and look at it and say, well, that data's not really that useful. And there'll be other things that will say that's really useful and that's actually really insightful, and it gives us something that's going to shape the training moving forwards.
Perfect. So will you walk us through kind of, not each day, but let's kind of just start at the start of Lionel's nutrition plan before we jump into like what the testing and stuff. How do you think Lionel's nutrition plan is now, and is that one of your main focuses when you're here?
It's been more a case of figuring out what's going to be the most effective way to ensure that he's hydrated and fueled. So that's what we've been trying to test. Once we've done that testing, and Gatorade have analysed it and told us, what those numbers mean, we'll go back to a piece of paper and a pencil and say, right, this is what needs to happen on race day. And it's what we did in 2017. We pretty much sat down with a piece of paper and wrote out, drinking strategy, fueling strategy. And in hindsight, of course, maybe something small and detailed might have needed to change. But the reality will be this year, we'll go into Kona knowing exactly what's needed from a fluid perspective, exactly what's needed from an electrolyte perspective, and exactly what's needed from a calorie perspective. And then it will be a case of just Lionel executing that on the day.
What are you most looking forward to on your relationship with Lionel?
Just getting the best out of Lionel, because I know he's capable of more. I know what's underneath the hood, so to speak, and I just know that we've not seen the best of Lionel yet. I mean, what we've seen right now is, and then the answers that we found, it's probably something that some people might say, well, that's fairly obvious. But the reality is, with a lot of people, a lot of professional athletes like Lionel, at his level, the cardiovascular system is not the limiter in the swim. It's the capacity to express that cardiovascular fitness, so the efficiency in the swim. With Lionel, that's just become more apparent with the testing that we've done when we've looked at some of the video, and we've also captured data that looks at the power production within the stroke and movement patterns with the hands and timing and stroke rate. And what that's really telling us is, there's not really a need to worry too much about Lionel's swim fitness per se. We just need to ensure that he has the ability to maintain as much force production on the water as possible. So maintain as much technique under load as possible for as long a period of time.
And is there anything that you've figured out in this camp just so far that you'll probably implement right away?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly some things in terms of the swim, just in terms of some external cues that I'll get Lionel to work on, and some skill work in the pool that he should be doing, just to improve his posture and alignment in the water. So the sweat tests, we're fortunate we have the support of Gatorade. They supplied us with the sweat testing kit, and principally we're looking at the rate of sweating and the rate of electrolyte loss. So that's the first part of the testing that we did, and we did that under race specific load. And the second part of the testing that we were doing was looking at, from my point of view, I just wanted to see what was going on at a metabolic level. Is Lionel building up lactate? He shouldn't be, principally because he's working at an effort that's well below threshold. And then the last part was really looking at just movement pattern. And clearly, people can see that Lionel's not the smoothest of riders, but we also wanted to get a handle on, well, just how much movement is there, and then we can then look at how we improve that.
So is his movement on the bike, is that something that's negatively affecting him? Do you plan to fix that, or is that something that you'll just keep there?
I mean, ultimately it has an aerobic, it has an aerodynamic cost, and so if we can improve it a little bit, then there's only upside. So it's certainly something we'll consider as a piece of the puzzle, but it's not going to influence the training dramatically. So the run testing was, again, much like the bike. We were looking at lactate and also sweat rate. And the most powerful takeaway from that will be really us figuring out, just quite how much he's going to need to drink. And then really from a moving forwards perspective is understanding how much of that can we train. There's only so much that a human being can drink and empty from their gastric system. So, we need to understand, what's the tipping point in terms of how much he can drink hour to hour, and how many calories can he take on board without it impacting him from a GI perspective.
The capture?
Yeah, we've definitely got a lot of information that we wanted to get a handle on, between sweat, lactate, O2 uptake, aerodynamics. There's a lot that we've got to work through now. So there isn't anything that I don't think that we've missed out on.
Final question, how has it been working with Lionel so far? Has he been pretty subjective on battling with your thoughts and opinions, or how has he been so far? And do you think that he's going to be willing to, is he at a state in his career where he's actually going to listen to you?
It's not a case of is he actually going to listen to me. He's always listened to me. I think that the way that our relationship has worked well is because we treat each other as equals. It's not a dictatorship from my point of view, and as a consequence, when we have had disagreements on what we should do, it's been something that we've discussed and debated. It's not been something that we've fought over, and it's been a black and white, you must do this, or I'm going to stop working with you. I think the success will be defined in October next year. That will be the definition of success. If Lionel races to the ability that we intend, and he takes on board the fluids and calories and electrolytes that we calculate are needed, and the net result is something that's the best performance that he's ever been capable of.
How can we find out more about Mr. David Tilbury Davis?
You can take a look at my website, or you can look at my Instagram.
Thank you. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed this rainbow, and I hope you enjoyed the Kona series. This is the end of it. That's the words from Lionel's coach himself. So the next videos will be back to normal style in Tucson, Arizona. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you in Tucson and then soon in St. George. Mahalo.